Bioethics, as a field, stands at the crossroads of science, medicine, philosophy, law, and society. It is born from the need to address the profound and often unsettling questions that arise when human ingenuity meets the fundamental processes of life. As scientific and technological advances accelerate, particularly in genetics, biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and medicine, the role of bioethics becomes ever more critical. It is not simply a set of rules or prohibitions, but a dynamic, reflective practice that seeks to guide individuals, professionals, and societies in making decisions that respect human dignity, promote justice, and safeguard the well-being of all living beings. The origins of bioethics can be traced to the post-World War II era, when revelations about unethical medical experiments and the rapid development of new technologies forced societies to confront the need for ethical oversight in science and medicine. The Nuremberg Code, the Declaration of Helsinki, and the Belmont Report are foundational documents that established principles such as informed consent, beneficence, and respect for persons. Over time, bioethics has expanded beyond clinical research to encompass a vast array of issues, from end-of-life care and organ transplantation to genetic engineering, reproductive technologies, and environmental stewardship. At its heart, bioethics is concerned with the question, what ought we to do, given what we can do? This deceptively simple inquiry becomes complex in the face of competing values, uncertain outcomes, and diverse cultural perspectives. The four core principles of bioethics, autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice, provide a framework for navigating these dilemmas. Autonomy emphasizes the right of individuals to make informed decisions about their own bodies and lives. Beneficence and non-maleficence require that actions promote good and avoid harm, respectively. Justice demands fairness in the distribution of benefits, risks, and resources. One of the most enduring and contentious areas of bioethical debate is the beginning and end of life. Advances in reproductive technologies, such as in vitro fertilization, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, and gene editing, have made it possible to select embryos based on genetic traits, prevent the transmission of inherited diseases, and even contemplate the creation of designer babies. These possibilities raise questions about the moral status of embryos, the limits of parental choice, and the potential for social inequality. Similarly, end-of-life issues, such as euthanasia, physician-assisted suicide, and the withdrawal of life-sustaining treatment, force us to grapple with the meaning of death, the value of suffering, and the rights of patients and families. The rise of genetic testing and genome editing technologies, especially tools like CRISPR, has brought bioethical concerns into sharp focus. The ability to read and write the code of life offers unprecedented opportunities for curing disease and alleviating suffering, but it also introduces risks of unintended consequences, genetic discrimination, and the specter of eugenics. Should we edit the human germline, knowing that changes will be passed on to future generations? How do we ensure informed consent when the long-term effects of such interventions are unknown? Who decides what constitutes a desirable or undesirable trait? These questions are not merely technical, but touch on the deepest values of society. Privacy and confidentiality are central bioethical concerns in the age of big data and personalized medicine. As electronic health records, genetic databases, and wearable devices proliferate, vast amounts of sensitive information are collected, stored, and analyzed. While these data can drive medical breakthroughs and improve public health, they also create vulnerabilities to breaches, misuse, and discrimination. Individuals may fear that their genetic information could be used by employers, insurers, or governments to limit opportunities or impose penalties. Ensuring robust protections for privacy and equitable access to the benefits of data-driven medicine is a pressing challenge for bioethics in the digital age. The allocation of scarce medical resources is another area where bioethical principles are tested. Whether in the context of organ transplantation, pandemic response, or access to expensive therapies, decisions must be made about who receives treatment and on what basis. Should priority be given to those with the best chance of survival, the youngest, the sickest, or those who contribute most to society? How do we balance individual needs with the common good? The COVID-19 pandemic brought these questions to the forefront, as healthcare systems around the world struggled with shortages of ventilators, vaccines, and medical personnel. Bioethics is not limited to human concerns. It also encompasses our responsibilities to animals and the environment. The use of animals in research, agriculture, and biotechnology raises questions about welfare, suffering, and the moral status of non-human creatures. Should animals be used in experiments if it leads to human benefit? What level of suffering is acceptable, and who decides? The creation of transgenic animals and the use of cloning technologies further complicate these debates, as do the environmental impacts of genetically modified organisms, biofuels, and industrial biotechnology. Bioethics thus demands a holistic perspective that recognizes the interconnectedness of all life. Justice and equity are recurring themes in bioethics, particularly in the context of global health. While advances in biotechnology and medicine have the potential to benefit humanity, they often exacerbate existing inequalities between and within countries. Access to life-saving treatments, vaccines, and diagnostics remains uneven, with poorer communities and nations frequently left behind. The high cost of new therapies, the concentration of research in wealthy countries, and the patenting of biological innovations all raise questions about fairness and solidarity. Bioethics calls for policies and practices that promote the common good, reduce disparities, and respect the rights and dignity of all people. Informed consent is a cornerstone of ethical research and clinical practice, reflecting the principle of autonomy. It requires that individuals be fully informed about the risks, benefits, and alternatives of a procedure or study, and that they freely choose to participate without coercion. However, achieving truly informed consent can be challenging, especially when dealing with vulnerable populations, complex technologies, or uncertain outcomes. Language barriers, cultural differences, and power imbalances can undermine the process, while the rapid pace of scientific change can make it difficult for individuals to understand the implications of their choices. Bioethics seeks to ensure that consent is meaningful, ongoing, and respectful of individual values. The commercialization of biotechnology introduces additional ethical complexities. The patenting of genes, organisms, and medical technologies raises questions about ownership, access, and the commodification of life. Should companies be allowed to patent human genes or genetically modified crops? What are the implications for research, innovation, and the rights of patients and farmers? The drive for profit can sometimes conflict with the goals of public health and social justice, leading to concerns about the affordability and availability of essential medicines and technologies. Emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, robotics, and neurotechnology are expanding the scope of bioethics. AI systems are increasingly used to diagnose diseases, recommend treatments, and even perform surgeries. While these tools can improve accuracy and efficiency, they also raise questions about accountability, transparency, and bias. Who is responsible when an AI system makes a mistake? How do we ensure that algorithms are fair and do not perpetuate existing inequalities? Neurotechnologies that interface with the brain, enhance cognition, or alter mood challenge our understanding of identity, autonomy, and personhood. Bioethics must adapt to these new frontiers, developing frameworks that anticipate and address the unique challenges they present. The globalization of science and medicine has made bioethics an international endeavor. Research collaborations, clinical trials, and the movement of people and technologies across borders require harmonization of ethical standards and respect for cultural diversity. What is considered acceptable in one country may be controversial or prohibited in another. International guidelines, such as those developed by the World Health Organization and UNESCO, seek to promote common principles while allowing for local adaptation. However, tensions often arise between universal values and particular traditions, requiring ongoing dialogue and negotiation. Education and public engagement are essential components of bioethics. The complexity and novelty of many bioethical issues can create confusion, fear, or misunderstanding among the public. Transparent communication, inclusive deliberation, and respect for diverse perspectives are necessary to build trust and legitimacy. Bioethicists play a key role in facilitating conversations between scientists, policymakers, healthcare providers, and the broader community, ensuring that ethical considerations are integrated into decision-making processes. The future of bioethics will be shaped by ongoing scientific innovation, societal change, and global challenges. Climate change, pandemics, aging populations, and emerging infectious diseases will test our ethical frameworks and demand new approaches to health, justice, and sustainability. The integration of genomics, digital health, and personalized medicine will blur the boundaries between prevention, diagnosis, and treatment, raising questions about privacy, consent, and the nature of medical care. As we move further into the 21st century, bioethics will remain a vital guide, helping us navigate the promises and perils of progress with wisdom, compassion, and humility. Central to the practice of bioethics is the recognition that ethical dilemmas rarely have simple or universally accepted solutions. Instead, they often require balancing competing values, acknowledging uncertainty, and making decisions in the face of ambiguity. This is particularly evident in cases involving end-of-life care, where questions about the prolongation of life, the alleviation of suffering, and the rights of patients and families come into sharp relief. The increasing use of advanced medical technologies to sustain life has led to debates about the definition of death, the appropriateness of withdrawing or withholding treatment, and the role of advanced directives and surrogate decision-makers. Similarly, the rapid development of reproductive technologies has challenged traditional notions of parenthood, family, and identity. Techniques such as mitochondrial replacement therapy, surrogacy, and the use of donor gametes raise questions about the rights of donors, recipients, and resulting children. The possibility of editing the human germline, creating embryos with selected traits, or even cloning humans forces us to confront fundamental questions about the meaning of human life, the limits of parental autonomy, and the potential for social inequality. Bioethics also grapples with the ethical implications of research involving human subjects. The history of medical research is marred by instances of exploitation, coercion, and abuse, from the Tuskegee syphilis study to unethical experiments in Nazi concentration camps. These abuses led to the development of ethical guidelines and oversight mechanisms, such as institutional review boards designed to protect the rights and welfare of research participants. However, new challenges continue to emerge, particularly in the context of global health research. where disparities in wealth, education, and power can create vulnerabilities. The use of animals in research and biotechnology is another area of ethical concern. While animal studies have contributed to many medical breakthroughs, they also raise questions about the moral status of animals, the justification for causing harm, and the adequacy of regulatory protections. The development of alternatives to animal testing, such as organ-on-a-chip technologies and computer modeling, reflects a growing commitment to the principles of reduction, refinement, and replacement. Nevertheless, debates about the ethical limits of animal use persist, particularly as biotechnology enables the creation of transgenic and chimeric animals. Environmental bioethics is an emerging field that addresses the ethical implications of human interventions in ecosystems and the biosphere. The release of genetically modified organisms, the use of biotechnology in conservation, and the development of synthetic biology all have potential consequences for biodiversity, ecological balance, and the rights of future generations. Bioethics calls for a precautionary approach, weighing the potential benefits of innovation against the risks of unintended harm. It also emphasizes the need for stewardship, sustainability, and respect for the intrinsic value of the natural world. The commercialization of biotechnology and the patenting of life forms introduce further ethical complexities. The granting of patents on genes, organisms, and medical technologies raises questions about ownership, access, and the commodification of life. Critics argue that the patent system can restrict research, limit access to essential medicines, and concentrate power in the hands of a few corporations. Proponents contend that patents incentivize innovation and investment. Striking a balance between rewarding creativity and ensuring the public good is a persistent challenge for bioethics and public policy. Justice and equity are foundational concerns in bioethics, particularly in relation to access to healthcare and the distribution of resources. The high cost of new therapies, the concentration of research in wealthy countries, and the exclusion of marginalized populations from clinical trials all contribute to health disparities. Bioethics calls for policies that promote fairness, reduce barriers to care, and ensure that the benefits of scientific progress are shared equitably. This includes attention to the social determinants of health, such as poverty, education, and environment, which shape opportunities and outcomes. Informed consent remains a cornerstone of ethical practice, but it is increasingly challenged by the complexity of modern medicine and research. The use of big data, biobanks, and genetic databases raises questions about how consent can be obtained, maintained, and respected over time. Dynamic consent models, which allow individuals to update their preferences and receive ongoing information, represent one approach to addressing these challenges. Ensuring that consent is meaningful, informed, and voluntary is essential to respecting autonomy and building trust. The intersection of bioethics and law is another important area of development. Legal frameworks provide the structure for regulating research, protecting rights, and resolving disputes. However, the law often lags behind scientific innovation, creating gaps and ambiguities. Bioethicists play a key role in informing policy, advocating for reforms, and interpreting the implications of new technologies. The relationship between bioethics and law is dynamic, with each influencing and shaping the other. Education and capacity building are essential to the future of bioethics. Training the next generation of bioethicists, healthcare professionals, and researchers requires interdisciplinary curricula that integrate science, philosophy, law, and social science. Public education initiatives can help demystify complex issues, foster critical thinking, and promote informed participation in ethical debates. Engaging diverse communities and perspectives is crucial to ensuring that bioethics reflects the values and needs of all members of society. Public engagement is a vital component of bioethics, particularly in democratic societies. The legitimacy of ethical decisions depends on the inclusion of diverse voices, transparent deliberation, and respect for pluralism. Mechanisms such as citizen juries, public consultations, and deliberative forums can facilitate dialogue, build consensus, and enhance trust. Bioethicists serve as mediators, translators, and advocates, helping to bridge the gap between science and society. The future of bioethics will be shaped by ongoing scientific, technological, and social change. Advances in genomics, synthetic biology, artificial intelligence, and digital health will create new opportunities and challenges. Climate change, pandemics, and global health disparities will test our ethical frameworks and demand new approaches to justice, solidarity, and stewardship. As we move forward, bioethics will remain an essential guide, helping us navigate the promises and perils of progress with wisdom, compassion, and humility. In summary, bioethics is a dynamic, interdisciplinary field that addresses the ethical, legal, and social implications of advances in science, medicine, and technology. It seeks to promote human dignity, justice, and the common good, while respecting the diversity of values and perspectives. As we confront the challenges of the 21st century, bioethics will continue to play a vital role in shaping the future of science, healthcare, and society. Its enduring questions about what we can do, what we should do, and how we decide will remain at the heart of our collective journey toward a more just and humane world.